What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the AwlAround. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves. Hi, welcome to another great episode of the AwlAround. I am your gracious host, Dr. Anthony, and we have some exciting topics today. The beautiful Miss Ida B will be in the house, but she'll be a few minutes late. And we also have producer Mark Lee, who will be here. So we'll be discussing some hot topics and, talking about things that are happening globally, locally, nationally, and pretty much any and everywhere that I think that is very important that you guys need to know about. So without any further ado, Mark, why don't you come out and join me?
I'm glad to join you. It's good to be here. I'm over here at the Haytime Center, the cultural arts center that I work at and all along those lines. But I've got a question for you because it's really been bothering me for a couple of days, and it actually has to do with customer service and all along those lines. I know we're going to get to some other hard-hitting issues, but if you're in the business of chicken, shouldn't you have chicken all the time? Because the last couple of weeks I've gone to KFC and they've told me we don't have any chicken. I'm like, you're in the chicken business. How do you not have chicken? You're in the chicken business. How do you actually run out of what you're supposed to be known for? And I know it's not good for me. I know you're a healthy person and will always kind of want the better foods and the healthy foods and all along those lines. But I'm just trying to figure it out on a corporate level. How can you be out of the product that made you famous and all along those lines? I don't get it, and it's happened to me now twice in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm not getting it. So please help me out.
Honestly, this has happened more often than it hasn't. When we were in Puerto Rico, we went to KFC, and they told us that they didn't have any chicken. And in other places, it's been where a lot of people are not having chickens. And I honestly believe that is due to the Republicans and how they're handling, the Hispanic immigrant workers and, things like that, because all of that takes an effect on our products, the things that we get, the shipping and, stuff like that or whatever. And they keep saying, they're doing the jobs that nobody wants to do, but you're getting rid of the people who are doing the jobs, but nobody is stepping up and taking those positions. So, what do? It's twofold. Like, these people are out here supporting these Republican governors and, things like that. And they're getting rid of daily workers, and things that the needs of the American people are going unmet. So my thing is, you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and the icing and eat it too. Something has to give. Like Florida, for example, when he went through and said that immigrant workers, although he's Hispanic and has Latino descent or whatever, can't work in the state, and businesses are going to get fined and things like that. And the production and the housing production, food production, all of that came to dang near a halt because the people were leaving. They don't want to get arrested. These are people that are trying to make honest living and trying to do what's right and things like that. But when you place, I'm sorry, I have allergies. When you place stipulations on people like that, then you put people in positions where they don't want to commit crime, but they're committing crime because you're forcing their hand. They want to be able to feed their children. They want to be able to pay their bills. Okay, they may not be legal, but who's to say that you can't institute a program to work with them to become legal citizens and become tax-paying, law-abiding citizens and things like that. But yet you want to take it and twist it, and you want to attack the very people that you need to work. So I think all of that is playing, is taking a toll on the things that we receive inside of the supermarket, from the chicken to our vegetables, to our fruits, to everything that we're receiving, because we just don't have the workers at this point that are coming from some of those plants. So that's beginning to be a normalcy that we're running out of food at the fast food restaurants.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. We're running out of fast food and all on those lines. You brought up an interesting point, the Republican Party and everything. And I don't know if you spent time to watch it, and I admitted I know that I think this first one you did not, and I didn't watch this debate, but I did see clips of bits of it, and did see a little bit here, a little bit there, and I did notice that folks that are of that descent, meaning the Hispanic descent, that some of them seem to be shooting themselves in the foot and even going against their own kind. And all along those lines, I'm thinking about Vivek, I'm thinking about Nikki Haley, I'm thinking about our own Tim Scott, and all in that space. But I was going because apparently there was a whole argument as to whether we wanted to be in slavery and thought slavery was a great thing, because apparently somebody was trying to pin Tim Scott into believing that. And I thought that that was just an insane thing for them to even bring up in the conversation, because nobody in their right mind would think that slavery was good for us and all along those lines. But that's what they brought up. And then, Vivek did have a great line. He said something about that he knew for a fact, because I guess he's got friends in the cartel, that he knew that while we were talking about putting up this wall, that he knew that they were already preparing to burrow underneath, and that they had tunnels and like maybe even little mini subways that they could go underneath the wall. And that has always been my contention, which is that if you build a wall, to your point, who's building the wall? The people that you're trying to keep out, because most of the constructed people are people of the Latin community. So if I'm of Latin descent and I want to build a wall, I would be trying to find trap doors, side doors, all kinds of ways to make sure that my people were able to get in, kind of that underground railroad kind of methodology and all along those lines. But what are your thoughts? Because I'm still don't
Well,
understand the.
okay, so we got a lot of things to unpack here. So I'm gonna just work my way back and just unpack it. So you said, building the wall, and they're building tunnels. The tunnels are already built. That's how El Chapo escaped the prisons, over there in Mexico, and they ended up bringing him over here to the United States. The tunnels are very well built. They're already done. They're already sneaking people through the tunnels. So that right there is neither here nor there. And my thing is, yes, we do have people that are coming into the country, and yes, we do have, other immigrants. The Hispanics are not the only immigrants that are coming into the country. We have other immigrants. We have the Haitians. We have, all other nationalities that are coming into the country. But the big focus has been placed on the Hispanics, because there's so many of them coming in at mass numbers that it can't go untalked about, and it can't go unnoticed. But the tunnels are already there. They were there, years past and years prior to now. So that's nothing new that they're trying to speak about, and things like that or whatever. But the question is that what they should be asking is, so you're trying to keep all these people out, so who are going to do those jobs that none of us actually want to do? I mean, because I went to school. I'm not doing manual labor. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And people know I don't. I tell my friends all the time. They was like, oh, let's grow a garden, let's do this. I'm not doing none of that. I'm going straight to the market, go get what I want, and things like that. I'm not growing nothing. We got people to do that. That's why we have fresh produce. That's why we have this, and that's why we have that. And if I have to pay a little extra, guess what? I'm gonna pay a little extra for my comfort. But the thing with the Republicans is they always try to make the Democrats seem as if they are at fault. And the Republicans, because I heard on Matt Gaetz talking about President Biden has increased the budget, the spending amount by trillions of dollars, but that was already done by Trump. They don't want to address that. Trump, wasting ammunition. You wasting ammunition that you call and tell a person, oh, we're about to bomb this place, we're about to bomb that place, y'all need to leave and y'all need to get out. So why the hell are you wasting ammunition? But y'all said nothing about that. Y'all said nothing about the tax credit that he gave to the rich and basically screwed and fucked the damn middle class on, and now we're receiving the brunt end of that. And then I heard somebody say, even with the student loans, that they were upset with President Biden. Why are you upset with President Biden? President Biden did exactly what he said he was going to do. But who you need to be upset with is those Republican senators and the congressmen who got that dark money to go to the Supreme Court so that they would fail and bankrupt the vote, so that the American people would not receive reprieve. But all of them voted to give Ukraine and all this money to those people over there. What have those people done for the U.S.? Nothing. So like I said, my black tax dollars need to go to the students, and it need to help the students. It doesn't need to help people who are outside of the U.S. I would prefer the students being relieved of their debt and all of that debt being alleviated before we go outside and help somebody else, and we're getting ourselves in trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. But they don't want to talk about that. But they want to talk about how President Biden is it's unconstitutional for him to assist the American people. Who do you think is paying the taxes? Ukraine and
Yeah,
nobody else is paying the taxes. The American people are paying the taxes. And it's the middle class that is hurting the most. The middle class, the ones that are being, drugged through the mud and things like that or whatever, that are, taking the brunt end of all of this because they always target the middle class. And so, my thing is, for the life of me, I can never understand why someone would vote for the Republican Party, anybody in the Republican Party, when they know what they're going to do. They have shown throughout history, if we look at it historically, what they're going to do. Trump said exactly what he wanted to do. He put Bessie DeVos over the Department of Education. This woman was clueless as hell, had no clue about running the Department of Education, but he purposely did that because he was trying to destroy all those departments. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, why in the hell would you vote for a person and they said what they're going to do? When they show you who they are, you believe them the first time. But
yeah. Somebody if a tiger shows you its spots, you're supposed to believe it, and all along those
yeah,
lines.
but the thing about it is, they were like, "Oh, Trump is a genius. Trump is nothing but a crook." Trump has been sued by the Department of Justice since before we were born, in the 60s and the 70s, and he has always been a crook. His family has always been crooks. His family has always been racist. And for me, for the black people that got up there talking about, "Oh, he's not racist. He's not this." His legacy does not say that. His legacy says racism. His legacy says that, if you were black in New York, he would not rent you an apartment. That's why he was sued by the Department of Justice countless of times. Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, basically the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And then they want to go after Hunter Biden over some, minute things. But you had the Trump family in plain daylight, striking deals with, Saudi people. They're getting billions and billions of dollars for their companies, real estate companies, and things like that. But you said nothing, and you did nothing, and you brought no charges against him. And Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, you brought no charges against them, and they sold tickets to the White House. They sold access to the White House, and all of this because y'all are complicit in the crime. That's why you don't want to bring them, because y'all know y'all hands are dirty as well. So y'all want to go after Biden and shield from the real politics at hand.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But they're also doing some of their trickery and all along those lines. And I was just wondering, and I'm gonna actually throw this out there, and maybe I could be wrong for saying this, but if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that you would not be surprised if Mr. Trump, former President Trump, doesn't have a certain type of sheet in his closet, and I'm not talking about the sheet for his bed, and folks ought to know what I'm talking about by that reference and everything. So you would not be surprised if that was the case.
We can call a spade a spade. We can say what it is, because this is Dr. Anthony's show and we are not censored over here. Yeah, we can say that they're Ku Klux Klan and they're wearing the sheets, but the thing about it is they got rid of the sheets. They're policemen, they're judges, they're lawyers. They're this, they're that, they're in the public sector and things like that. Why do you think black people have been being railroaded and things like that when it comes to the justice system? They are purposely, railroading black men. I'm not saying that all black men are absolved of not absconding, because they have absconded, and I'm not saying that, but the ones who were not guilty were found guilty. It's been a lot of cases where, the DNA said that a black man didn't do the crime, but they still got charged with the crime. They still got, charged with something because they wanted them to get charged with it. And we have to look at it. When I tell people, you have to follow the money. You have to follow the money. You have to understand that the prison system is a multi-billion-dollar prison system. So they need bodies and they need people to fill those beds. That's the only way that they're going to get paid. Secure is a friend of mine who happens to be white, is an engineer, and he used to work for Securus. Securus is one of those companies that supply the prison system with all types of things. So, prisoners can have cell phones. They can have cable. They can have all the luxuries of everything that we can have out here. Internet, as long as their family's paying for it. So as long as the families are paying for it and they're being charged astronomical, because I have a first cousin who's in prison right now who I pay to contact through email. He can have an email address. You know what I'm saying? But I have to pay to contact him through email. So all of this is a money-making business, and people got to understand it's not just by happenstance that you're saying that black people and black women and black children and brown people are criminals. It's not by happenstance. You're putting it out there for the white people so that, when you do criminalize us, that it's a normalcy for them, and they don't feel the need and they don't feel the brunt of the hurt or whatever. When George Floyd was being murdered on national TV, we watched his death play out in real time. Then white people was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was happening to black people. Yeah, you knew. You chose to ignore it because black people have been saying this since the beginning of time. You know, how treacherous other white people are towards black people and towards people of color. I mean, just the other day, I saw on the internet where two Asian actors quit Hawaii Five-O because they were being paid significantly less than their white counterparts, and they wanted to be paid the same. So since they were not being paid the same, they quit. But now you're experiencing what we have been experiencing the whole time, where we get paid pennies on a dollar for doing the same exact job, but also doing it better than, you know, some mediocre white woman or some mediocre white man. But they get the brunt of the money because that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? So the racism doesn't stop. The Ku Klux Klan doesn't stop. They just got rid of the sheets. They're
Yeah,
in
they
those
just got rid of this.
positions.
Yeah, they just got rid of the sheets and everything. But speaking of getting rid of the sheets, and I was going to get to another issue that I said I was going to bring up, and then there's something you mentioned earlier that I was going to talk about as well. But they also are very much ingrained in this whole Ukrainian war and everything. So I did see that Representative Matt Gaetz accused Senator Speaker Kevin McCarthy of making a secret Ukraine side deal with Democrats because they did not get the money that they think that they needed to send over there to Ukraine and everything. So apparently they're upset, and this is that whole MAGA crowd and everything. So they're upset and are trying to undermine the current leader and all in that space. And I already knew that he was going to be getting himself in some trouble with that group when he did that compromise to make himself the speaker. So I was expecting this to come and happen. I wasn't expecting it to happen this soon, but I knew it was going to happen because it kind of reminded me. I don't know if you know this, but Dr. Anthony, one of the things that the network has allowed me to do is run different lectures and different things on a separate thing. If you go into the website, you'll see something called rotating events, and I think it's called rotating events and lectures or rotating events and something. But one of those events was, because some of these are historical, so I actually brought the speech of Malcolm X and the debate between Malcolm X and Bayard Rustin. And I can tell you that some of the things that they were arguing about in the early 1960s is still stuff that we talk about today in 2023. And, you know, one of his famous quotes was that whole notion of the, I'm trying to remember which bird it was, but it would be coming back to roost and everything. So it's kind of along those lines of what you were talking about and all in that space. But it's that very famous Malcolm X quote, and you know the one I'm referring to. I just can't think of the nature of it and of the full quote.
Oh,
But
definitely. When the chickens come home to roost.
thank
So,
you.
but the thing about it is, the only thing that has changed is technology. The treatment of black people has not changed. I mean, we go through different things every day, and when we say that we're still feeling the brunt of racism and things like that, guess what they say? Get over it. You know what I'm saying? But y'all don't tell the other people to get over 9/11. You don't tell the Asian people to get over Hiroshima. You know what I'm saying? You don't tell them to get over that. You don't tell the Jews to get over their people being incarcerated and thrown in an incinerator. You don't tell people to get over that. Although we had people incarcerated and thrown in an incinerator, as black people, we did. You know what I'm saying? And you know, because
And lynched. I mean, they made a whole party out of lynching. I
of
mean,
course. Of course, and being lynched, you know, we just had somebody hung from a tree not long ago. We had people lynched, and these are things that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And then you have the caucasity to say that we don't deserve reparations, we don't deserve this. No black person in America should be living below the poverty line. We should have everything pretty much handed to us. We built this country and things like that or whatever, and so reparations should have been handed to us at birth, and it should have given, you know, started at birth, and we should have been able to retrieve whatever we was going to retrieve at the age of 18 or 21. And that's just the fact about it. But you know, you give other countries and other people who are not even American citizens reparations and, you know, things like that or whatever, but you don't want to give the black people, the very people that built this country, the very people that saved this country and continue to save this country, you don't want and think that they deserve, you know, to be you know, given reparations and to be monetized and, you know, things like that or whatever. So yes, we are still fighting some of the battles that, you know, Malcolm X spoke about, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King, and things like that or whatever. Because to be honest with you, Martin Luther King never wanted, they never really wanted integration. They just wanted the black people to receive the same thing that, you know, that the whites were receiving. But, you know, the white people figured, oh, you know, if we integrate, you know, we can still manually control and do this and do that or whatever. Because honestly, I think that was one of the worst mistakes we ever did, was integrate and not, you know, continue on our own and things
yeah,
like that.
no, he's definitely Black Wall Street. You know, I'm in Durham, which is definitely one of the uh, historical Black Wall Streets, along with Tulsa and Seneca and a number of other ones that existed as well. And yeah, we did let the highways and other things go through and destroy them. And there were a number of sellouts, and some of those sellout families are still around and all along those lines. But one of the greatest arguments I've been hearing lately, and I'd love to hear your take on this, is you will hear a number of people say, including some that are supposed to be either allies or fellow minorities, that we don't need to be holding them accountable because it was their ancestors that did it and that they were not involved. And that is part of their issue around critical race theory and a number of other things, because they feel that we are blaming their siblings, and well, not their siblings, but their offsprings and the folks that were not involved in the original sins, whether that was the sins of slavery or the sins of other things that have taken place in society. So, Dr. Anthony, what is your answer? Because I'm sure even up in DC, you've heard people that have tried to make this argument that, I didn't do it, so therefore I should not have to pay for it, and y'all are making me feel inferior, or y'all are making me feel like I am the problem, and that they claim that they are not the problem. So, and like I said,
they're very much possible. I'm gonna go back and address Matt Gaetz and then come back. But Matt Gaetz, he shouldn't be on the forefront of anything, because he had a scandal where he was flying an underage child, here and there and things like that. So they basically just swept that under the rug. But all in all, they wanted to say Bill Cosby, did what he did to grown women back in the 70s, who couldn't prove that he did what he did to grown women back in the 70s. But my thing is, whatever you do, it's gonna come, whatever's done to in the dark is gonna come to the light. But Matt Gaetz, your days are numbered, so I don't think you need to be putting your mouth on anybody and doing anything. But as far as Kevin McCarthy is concerned, I think that he basically said that he was going to be Speaker of the House to go after Biden and to do an impeachment, but you have no grounds to stand on to do an impeachment. So you're wasting the American people money and things like that or whatever, because Trump purposely, and we all know that he had a hand in the insurrection. And so the people that also had a hand in the insurrection need to be prosecuted. But as I stated, these are the people who are also in the, terms of the law. And so they don't want to be prosecuted along with them and be held accountable. Now, as far as, original sins is concerned, no, you're just as guilty as your people, because guess what? You are a descendant of them, just like we are a descendant of ours. You receive their money. If that's the case, give their money back then. If you don't want to have anything to do with it and you're not responsible, give their money back then. Give that money to a Black family. If that's the case. You know what I'm saying? So they always want to say that they did not have anything to do with it, but you're still upholding the very system of white supremacy that we're dealing with on a consistent basis. You're still holding it. You're still holding it up, and you're still supporting it. For prime example, white women hand down wholeheartedly voted for Trump. And they were the ones that basically sent him to the White House. Black women voted Democrat like we always do, and we always hold the party down and things like that or whatever. So when they came out with the whole thing with the Supreme Court about white women and abortions and things like that, baby, this is not our fight. Go do what you do, because you always want to talk about, oh, we need to stand up for being women. When have you stood up for Black women? You have never stood up for Black women. You always vote against our interests, your interests, and you always stand up for white supremacy. So therefore, when your husband's over there beating your ass and doing whatever, cheating on you, guess what? Keep that same energy. Keep that same energy that you had when you went to the when you went to the polls and you voted and you put them in office. Keep that same energy, because guess what? That's not our fight, and that's why we didn't jump behind it, and that's why we still not jumping behind it, and that's why we're still allowing them to feel the brunt end of what they voted for. You voted.
I hear you, Dr. Anthony, along those same lines. I've heard in that same argument some people that will give you the meritocracy argument. So they will basically say that they are frustrated because they are being passed over because of affirmative action and a number of other things, and they're like that they don't want the person to get the job because they are representing a certain culture. Because just recently, Dianne Feinstein, who I definitely think was a good leader in the Democratic Party, passed away, and the governor of California appointed somebody that will actually check three boxes because it is a black woman lesbian. And then she definitely identifies in all three of those categories. So LaFonza Butler will be the new representative from California to fill the seat of Dianne Feinstein since Governor Newsom has appointed her. But I do know that there are people that are saying that, well, why should we be passed over because we are white males and we are not going to, we are equal, we are just as equal as these other folks, but we don't check the boxes. So I've heard a couple people make that argument. It's not an argument that I necessarily buy, but they can make it all day long. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that argument.
Yeah, before we go there, I want to finish up with critical race theory. So the whole point about critical race theory, they don't want their children learning about critical race theory, but our children are experiencing every day. So if our children can experience it, your child can read about it and your child can learn about it. And another thing that, that's bothersome with the critical race theory is you're going to see your grandmammy and your grandpappy in the pictures. So you don't want your child to be exposed to, the sins of your parents and the sins of your grandparents. And so that's another reason why I feel like, they are against the whole notion of critical race theory, because critical race theory is just teaching basically Black history and the prominence that we stand in this America and how we have built this America and how we continue to revolutionize and invent this America. But they have a problem with their young white children learning about it, but you don't have a problem with our young Black children experiencing it. So that that's kind of twofold and things like that or whatever. Oh, your child is too young to learn about it, but our children are not too young to experience it. Tamir Rice, when he was gunned down for playing with a toy. You know what I'm saying? Our children don't get the same treatment as their children. And our children are adultized and brought into adulthood way before they even hit puberty. And they consider them young adults, young men, young Black men, young women. From example, when the young girl was out there watering and with the trees and stuff like that, and the white man called from across the street saying a young Black woman, a little Black woman. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say a little girl, a little child, because you knew she was a child. He purposely, tried to increase her age and to increase her, position in the society as an adult, so that the police will respond to her accordingly. So our children are always being mistreated, but your children are not, is too young to learn about it, but our children can, experience it. And so that's where the problem is. And, that's where the whole notion with critical race theory is a problem for them, because the current governor in Virginia ran solely off of critical race theory. And that's how he won. Because he sold a lie to the white women, and of course the white women gonna do what white women do, is vote against their own best interests. But guess what? Black women not coming to your rescue no more. We're done with that. As far as affirmative action is concerned, first of all, the beneficiaries of affirmative action were white women. Hands down, it was always white women. They were the brunt beneficiary of affirmative action. And affirmative action just didn't put any Black person into positions of going to schools and things like that or whatever. Affirmative action put the best of the best into those positions, such as Joy Reid. She was an exceptional scholar, and others. And believe it or not, Clarence Thomas was an exceptional scholar. But he looked down upon the fact that affirmative action got him to the place where he was belittled by white folks, the very people that he support, belittled him and made him feel a way about a program that benefited primarily Asians and white people. It didn't primarily benefit Black people. And we're not talking about, just any old run-of-the-mill Black people. We're talking about the creme de la creme. So when the Black people are in these spaces, it's because they deserve to be there. It's not because that anything was given. Yes, they may have a little help along the way to get there, but it's not like that they didn't study and bust their ass to get to the point where they got there. So, they want to, down affirmative action, but let's talk about legacy. admissions and things like that. Because half of y'all who are legacy admissions, you only got in because your parents paid for a building. Your parents donated all this money. Your
Mhm.
parents did that, but you don't have a problem with that because, it's primarily white people that are, legacies of, these predominantly prestigious Ivy League so-called colleges and things like that or whatever. So you don't have a problem with legacy admissions, but you have a problem with affirmative action because you feel like it's going to hurt black people. Sweetheart, we have always been the creme de la creme. We're going to continue to be the creme de la creme. We've always made out of no a way out of no way. We have always been the intellectuals and the intelligent ones. We have never been, mediocre and things like that. Unlike white women who are mediocre in every capacity that you can think of, but are given, high paying jobs and high positions over black women because of the color of their skin, because they feel like the white woman is better. And hands down, black women run circles around them. That's why they're so intimidated by us, and that's why they hate us so, from the beauty standpoints, for the intelligence to the brains. And it's a proven fact that black women lead in education, they lead in degrees, they lead in entrepreneurship, they lead across the board in every way possible. Do you think white women support us? No, they don't support us. They vote against us. They vote against us in every election, and it's proven that they vote against us in every election, and that's hands down. Mark.
Yeah, no doubt. They definitely do a lot of voting against their own interests, as you like to say, and everything in that space. But one thing that you mentioned earlier, and I was going to bring up another famous case, but there's a twist to that famous case, and I'll bring that up in a minute and everything. But I was just wondering because you mentioned earlier, and I said I was going to get to this, and definitely I remember being a fan of both Fat Albert as well as those Jello commercials and all in that space. But apparently there is a new accuser after all the other women accused him, and he did serve time, that being the iconic actor Bill Cosby. But apparently there is a new accuser out there that did not come around the first time and is now joining the party of folks that are saying that she was assaulted way back when. And like I said, I think she said it took place in the 70s and all in that space. So at what point do we run out of this statute of limitations? Are you one that buys any of these accusations, or is this all part of a conspiracy? Because I did hear that there was some speculation, and I've heard this in a couple of sources, that part of the reason they went after him was because there was a time that he was going after NBC and trying to buy NBC, and there might have been some folks that might have been upset about that power grab and decided to go after him in a retaliation grab and all in that kind of way. So I don't know whether that is conspiracy theory or based on facts, but I'd love to hear your thoughts around this.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's conspiracy theory or based on facts myself, because a lot of people have tried to buy networks and things like that. Byron Johnson owns the Weather Channel, and he owns a lot of networks, and he's black. You know what
Byron
I'm saying?
Allen, I think it is.
Byron Allen, that's who it is. I said Byron Johnson. My apologies. So
No,
he
that's
owns, like different networks, and he controls, like different networks. They were trying to basically keep him out of, the cable network system and things like that. So now I don't know what the accuracy is behind, the whole NBC thing or whatever. But to be honest with you, I think the women are lying. And this is not to take away from victims, and this is not to take away from women who have suffered, at the hands of men who actually have committed crimes against them. I'm just speaking from my opinion and what I feel in my spirit. I just honestly believe that they were lying, and I think that they wanted to go after his money, and they wanted a payout and things like that or whatever. Because we have seen throughout history how many women have, set men up and have lied and said that they have done something, and accused them of, rape and sexual assault, and it wasn't even true. For example, there was a young man in high school, and this story became very popular. The girl lied and said he raped her, and come to find out she lied the whole damn time. He lost his scholarship to college. He lost his way to the NBA. He lost everything. But what happened was a lot of people still believed in this young man, and one of the persons got her on tape lying, said that her mother and her fabricated the story to get the money from the school district. So my thing with that whole Bill Cosby situation, you had, I don't know how many years to report your crime or report your abuse. You not told not one person. You didn't tell one single person what happened. Because let me tell you something, as a woman, Mark, we can't hold water when it comes to stuff like that. If something happens to us, we always have one or two people that we're going to talk to about that situation. So you mean to tell me that there was nobody in your corner that you could have spoken to about the situation, that you could have even mentioned about the situation that happened? You know what I'm saying? And then the thing about it is, you said that he offered you the Quaalude because that was the Georgia choice back in the day. You had a option to decline the drug. You never said he forced you. You said he offered you or he gave you. You never said he forced me to take it and then he took advantage of me, because that's what y'all did back in the day. Because remember, we have the videos to prove that y'all were hippies and y'all were smoking weed right out there on the National Mall, and y'all were drinking and y'all were doing all this other stuff. Y'all were getting high because that was the thing to do. And then now you want to say that, oh, he drugged you and he forced you to take it, but you never really said he forced you. You just said he gave it to you. So you had an option to not take the drug and not participate in the party, but you didn't do it because you said, oh, this is Bill Cosby. He has money. And we know how groupies do. We know how groupies are. Y'all very aggressive when y'all want something, when y'all want to go after a man, when y'all want to go after his money. Y'all extremely aggressive. For example, look at Ezekiel Elliott when the white woman went after him and told him, I'm a white woman. Oh, you can't break up with me. They're going to believe me over you any day. So y'all knew what the hell y'all was doing. So no, do I believe that Bill Cosby sexually assaulted y'all? No. Do I believe that he gave y'all drugs and y'all participated in the party? Yes. Do I believe that y'all got high together and you wanted it? Yes. Do I believe that he raped you? No. I think that you guys were a willing participant, and you participated in the party and you found out that, well, not really found out, but you realized that you can get money just by saying, because quite naturally the woman, a white woman of virtue, if she says, this happened, then it happened. Look how the woman back in what was it, Mississippi, lied on Emmett Till, caused him to lose his life. You know what I'm saying? So these white women have always been doing what they have been doing throughout time. So that's why, I mean,
Hey,
me
Dr. Anthony, I've also got to ask you, I know I'm going to raise your ire again, but that's okay because I like having these conversations, and sometimes it's good to raise your ire because it then raises other people's ires as well. And you mentioned earlier Byron Allen, and I was just curious, so I looked it up and all along those lines, and whether it is Larry Elder or Byron Allen, they do seem to love going after these blonde women and all in that space. So, what is it with our men of power and their fixation and their want of wanting to get with some of these blonde women, and some of these women that look, I guess, a Barbie doll attractive, but some of them do not, and all in that space. But what is your thoughts around this? Because I did see that Byron Allen, very much of a power broker and a film producer, and like we said, a networker and all that. His wife is apparently Jennifer Lucas, ironically from Chappaquiddick, and we do know that, or at least she was involved with Chappaquiddick, the movie, and all in that space. But definitely, she is a industry person as well, and apparently, he must have something to do with that particular movie or that particular story. And then we also know, like I said, that Larry Elder has also had a ex fiance that was white, and a couple of others that were white as well. But like I said, I know this might raise your ire, but I'm just saying we're having conversations like we do on the All Around show. So, what's your thought about these power brokers going after these white girls?
because that's what they were taught was the prize. You know what I'm saying? For a long time, black women were not looked at as the prize, and black women are not looked at as the beauty of standard. That's what a lot of black women are saying, and especially dark-skinned black women. They were not looked at as a standard of beauty. They were made fun of. They were, called monkeys. Look how they came after Michelle Obama and said she was a man. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't look at her as, being the typical standard of beauty. This is what, black men are, are sold, that white women are the prize, white women is the standard of beauty, and white women is this and white women is that. You know what I'm saying? They're not black women are just not put on that pedestal. And that's a fight that we have to fight every day. And also through the colorism, in my black sisters, my dark skinned black sisters, they're going through a fight themselves where black men are not liking them because they're calling them darkies, they're calling them this and they're calling them that, and things like that. And we have beautiful black women in all
Mhm.
shapes and sizes and all colors and things like that or whatever. but they just feel like the black woman is not the standard of beauty. And so a lot of these powerful men go after white women, and then after because my thing is, after they take your ass to the bank and take all your money and shit like that, then you want to come back to a black woman. Now keep that same energy, stay your ass over there, we don't want you. You know what I'm saying? Stay your ass over there, because a lot of them that date white women and go after white women, you were our rejects. We didn't want you in the first place, so please understand that, white women, we didn't want them, you got our rejects or whatever. So they feel like that they got a prize or whatever. But my thing is, hell, they age like banana peels and they look old as shit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why you wouldn't want to date a beautiful black woman. You know what I'm saying? Why you wouldn't want to have a doll for life? I'm not gonna say Barbie doll, because I'm not a Barbie doll. I'm a doll. You know what I'm saying? So why wouldn't you want to have a doll for life? I'm about to be 50 and look all of 25. You know what I'm saying? So again, that is what they perpetuate as the standard of beauty is, white women, and that's what they go after.
Well, speaking of that standard of beauty, and that was the other one that I was going to get to, and I'll get to maybe a couple of lighthearted things. Hopefully, I know Ida was in the road, and it looks like she won't make it this time, but hopefully
Mm-hmm.
we'll see her next week, or maybe she'll pop in at the end and everything. But there was this whole thing around Harvey Weinstein. I think you mentioned that earlier and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But there is a new version that is coming out now, and it involves the fashion industry once again, and all along those lines. But it is also involving a very popular brand, Abercrombie and Fitch, but the ex-CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch and his British partner are facing allegations of exploitation from men, and I did say men, I didn't say women, recruited for sex events they hosted around the world. So there's a BBC investigation found a highly organized network using a middleman to find young men for the events with Mike Jeffries and Matthew Smith. 8 men told the BBC they attended these events, some of whom alleged they were exploited or abused. Neither of the accused have responded to requests for comments from the media as of yet. But the couple's middleman denied any wrongdoing and said men went into those events with their eyes wide open. So the person that apparently found these folks, and I know there was a lot of accusations around what was going on in that Harvey Weinstein case too, but it sounds like it's very similar. And apparently the U.S. is involved as well, because 2 former U.S. prosecutors who independently reviewed documents and testimony uncovered by the BBC have called for an investigation determining whether charges for sex trafficking could be brought. So just like we had the Weinstein case, this could be the LGBTQIA version of the Weinstein case, because Abercrombie and Fitch is a very popular brand and all along those lines. So what are your thoughts? Are we heading toward a Feinstein type case in this particular incident?
To be honest with you, I really don't know. But I'm just gonna put it to you like this: like I was saying, groupies. It's not like you don't have an idea of what type of party you're going to. I've dated people that professional athletes and things like that, and I've been around them, and I've seen women and how aggressive they are at trying to get to what they want, and they know willingly that this is what it is, and things like that or whatever. But when you don't really get what you want, then you want to cry, oh, he sexually assaulted me, he did this, he did that. No, you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. You knew exactly where you was going. You knew exactly what time it was when you got invited to the party and things like that or whatever. So my thing is, you didn't get what you thought you were going to get. Now you want to play victim. And I'm just like, and I'm not taking away from people who are actually victims or whatever, but I've been around the industry, and I know how it goes, and I know how aggressive people can be when it comes to something that they want, because I saw it firsthand. You know what I'm saying? So, whatever they got going on is what they got going on. I have no idea if it was going to be a Harry Weinstein case or whatever, but even in his case, I feel like the women thought that their positions were going to be solidified if they did what they did with Harry Weinstein, because he was a prominent figure in Hollywood. So I think that a lot of them did go in and do things that they question, and unquestionable things, thinking that they were going to get elevated positions. And when they didn't get those elevated positions, then all of a sudden they want to cry rape, they want to cry this, they want to cry that. Just like what's her name, Tina Basic. She had all these plastic surgeries done, and she thought that it was going to help her position, and it was going to help put her on that A list for Hollywood, and it did nothing. So honestly, I honestly believe that these people know exactly what is
No, I
happening.
think they know what they're getting into, but I'm also trying to figure out why they go after him so late in life. Because,
There,
like I said,
it,
why do they go
they know.
after him so? Why did they go after him so late in life? Because, like I said, the people involved in this particular case that I just mentioned, the folks that are tied to Abercrombie and Fitch, one of them is 79, and his British partner is 60. Now, 60 is around my age, so, but 79 and 80. What my question is, if this stuff was going on in places like London, Paris, Venice, and Marrakesh, why are you bringing it up just now if it was going on during all that time? 'Cause like you said earlier, maybe they were figuring that this
But
was
you
their
got to
thing.
understand, Mark. Before the Me Too movement happened, all of this was still happening, and the folks didn't really have a voice. But Me Too gave a lot of people a scheme that they could, basically scheme over men and things like that. Because nowadays you can't even give a woman a compliment. You can't even, say anything. Oh, it's sexual harassment. You offended me. You did this. You did that. You know what I'm saying? So the Me Too movement, I feel like it put a lot of men in danger when it came to basic relationships and things like that. I'm not saying that there's not creeps. There are creeps. You know that there are creeps. But
Right.
I feel like, because it happened so long ago that there's really not no solid proof and nobody can really go against it. That's why they're coming out now. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Can't nobody, yeah, can't nobody
yeah,
say,
no,
I this didn't happen and this didn't take place and things like that or whatever. Because prime example, you gave a example of Bill Cosby. There was an accuser of Bill Cosby saying that she was in the Playboy Mansion and he touched her when she was 16 years old. Documents show that Bill Cosby wasn't even in the Playboy Mansion when she so called claimed that he was there and she was there. He was actually in New York doing something else, and there's documentation that says that he was in New York. So a lot of these people are lying or whatever to try to get onto the bandwagon to try to secure that bag and get that money. And that's exactly what I think it is, because a lot of the white women, they hijacked the Me Too movement. You know what I'm saying?
well,
The Me Too
speaking of
movement was
Scarface,
started
like
by
that,
those black women. The Me Too movement was started by those black women who were sexually molested by
well,
family members and people in their direct community and things like that. But the white women hijacked the Me Too movement and they took it a little bit further, and they went after high powerful men and jobs and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying some of these men are not guilty. Some of them are guilty, but at the end of the day, your ass was a willing participant because you thought that you was going to reap the benefits, and you thought that you was going to get what you was going to get and move your career. And that's just
and
about it.
no, I hear the bottom line. And earlier we talked about the fact that you are hopeful, and it's a long shot, but long shots have been known to happen that you will win the lottery. And I'm sure that if you win the lottery, you have that $1 billion or billion plus that you mentioned that it is at now. That reminds me, I might have to go buy me a ticket because I've not got one, and I'm not saying I'm actually going to buy one, but I may just go and get one this
I
evening
like
and
you saying
everything.
you're right.
But that being said, some of these folks that when they get the money after they get divorced, they get these lovely settlements. Because I was reading this article where I think the divorce settlement for Tiger Woods and Elon Nordegren was 750 million. It was like 400 million for Angela Jolie and Brad Pitt. It was something like 400 million for Robert and Sheila Johnson. And there was some that were like just crazy ridiculous. I think I saw one down here. There was like around a and Don Khashoggi and Sari Oye Khashoggi, who are some Saudi Arabian millionaires. When they got divorced, the award was like 874 million, and I did say million with an M. And apparently, there was another one that I saw that had the B word in it, and all along those lines. So I'm trying to get to this one just really quickly and everything. So I'm thinking, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, and everything as I get to the billionaire, so I can just mention his name and everything along those lines. But I'm thinking that if you were fortunate enough to win the billionaire lottery pick and all in that space, that there's going to be a serious what do you call it, prenuptial, if you were ever
Oh,
to get married,
definitely.
because I don't see Anthony just giving away that kind of money without
No.
there being some
Mm-mm.
security and all along those lines. But like I said, I know that
Yeah, that would
there's people
definitely
in
be,
your
like legal documentations and, things put in place and things like that, because you're not going to do to me what has been done in the past and things like that. And people always say, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that, but money talks, bullshit walks the line. So it would definitely be some legalities and paperwork put in place before anything of talks of anything, and stuff like that or whatever. You just have to protect your assets and things like that or whatever, because you never know. You just never know.
You never know what's going to happen. Like I said, oh, here it is. And I should have known. Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, their divorce settlement was estimated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.4 billion. So that is what they were dealing with, and all along those lines. So definitely, there's a whole lot of money being thrown around in some of these figures and all along those lines.
Mhm.
But I don't even know that they both have that kind of money. But yeah, there's some interesting
Well, I mean,
settlements being
like
out.
I said, you just got to protect your assets, because some people are out to. Not saying that this is the intention of everybody. Some people are out to score a payday. And you need to protect your assets and things like that. Like there was this young man some time ago, some years ago. He told he asked his fiance to sign a prenup, and she wouldn't sign a prenup, and he didn't marry her. And I really can't blame him or whatever, because he wanted to protect his assets. Because if you're there for the right reasons, a prenup shouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Because don't get me wrong, I'm going to take care of my husband. I'm going to make sure he has what he has and make sure that he's good and things like that or whatever. But I still believe in protecting your assets and things like that. Now, will I leave him bone dry if we decide to split? No, I would not leave him bone dry, but you're not going to get half of my money. I would give you something, but you're not going to get half of my money. I'm going to make sure that, you can afford the lifestyle that you have come to, grow into or whatever. But as far as you getting half of the assets and things like that, that's not happening.
No, I don't blame you. Hey, just really quickly, another question that I was curious about, and I know that I am a sports fan. Ran track way back when I was even better than that. It was like the Charlie Brown of my team, but I did try to run the mile and the 880. But I do follow and kind of like enjoy watching football and basketball. And there was a time that athletes were accused of point shaving and all in that space. And there have been a couple of incidences. I think there was a college game where it literally looked like this weekend, like the quarterback, and of course they were getting blown out, threw it to the defenseman. And I want to say that in one of the NFL games yesterday, that the player literally stopped at like the half-yard line. So there is now some questions that people are asking in the public and on social media as to whether people are taking bets and doing what folks used to call point shaving. So I was just wondering, do you think that betting is taking place and that the athletes might be betting on themselves, or is this much ado about nothing? Because I have definitely heard those conversations on social media where people are wondering whether the athletes are intentionally going after certain scores because they are not wanting certain payouts, or maybe they're trying to help their own payouts and all along those lines. But definitely, I've also heard people say, would you sacrifice the millions or billions that you are making in order to make a little bit of chump change here and there?
I mean, I don't really know too much about the whole, thing that you're talking about, but I mean, it's a possibility, because you never know when it comes to people. But I know if they, in some contracts, such as the NFL, if they score a certain amount of touchdowns, if they get a certain amount of sacks, and if they do a certain amount of things, yes, they do get bonuses. So I'm quite
Mhm.
sure that that plays a part into how they play and things. And if they win the Super Bowl, they get X amount of dollars and in bonus. Just like with the NBA, they get X amount of dollars for winning the NBA championship, along with other sports. Now, to say that they're betting on themselves, I'm not sure, because that is illegal or whatever.
Yeah,
So, but who knows? you
yeah,
know
who
um
knows?
people have done some of the stranger things, some weird things. So it's a possibility that it can take place, and it's a possibility that it can happen. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's a possibility. We're human. So
Yep, they're definitely humans. The last thing I was going to bring up, I know we said we're going to get to the racists over there in Ireland, and we didn't quite get to that. So maybe we'll get to
that's
that
okay.
either later or save it for next week and everything. But there has been a notion, and we've talked about it on the show before, and definitely around the world, of minimum wage and a set minimum wage. Apparently, they're in the UK. They just voted to do, I think it's £11. And when I talked to some friends of mine that are foreigners and or people from other countries, they said that that would come out to about a $15 national pay rate and everything. So, do you think we'll ever see anything like that in the U.S.? Should we see something like that here in the U.S.? And what is your thoughts? Because I know you teachers are way underpaid and all in that space. But there is definitely a notion that we should have a better minimum wage, because I want to say that the minimum wage has been stuck on stupid. That is my new expression for the minimum wage for several years, because we've been around seven something and it hasn't moved whatsoever. So I just wondered your thoughts about this notion of $15 and maybe raising it, because apparently that's what they did in the UK.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, inflation has, steadily rose and is still rising, and the minimum wage is not. And so we still have people in poverty. We have, educators who are coming out of college that's living in poverty. They have to, apply for government assistance to just be able to make ends meet. We have educators that are working 2 and 3 jobs just to be able to support their families and pay their bills because they're not making enough money. And so, these are people who are making a little bit above minimum wage. Now, let's just talk about the people who are making minimum wage. These people are below poverty and living below the poverty line. So this is not by, like I said, this is not by happenstance. It's not a coincidence. This is done purposely. They want to keep people broke. They want to keep people at a certain, at a certain wage and things like that or whatever. So what we need to do, and the Republicans are, notorious for fighting, the increase of minimum wage, the increase of Social Security, and things like that. But they will give the troops, raises, which I think everybody should give the troops raises. But $15 an hour, that's $30,000 a year. Who can survive off of $30,000 a year with the family, apartment, car, and things like that? And then they're taking out all these taxes. Nobody can survive off of $30,000 a year. So that's just insane. So you're purposely keeping people below the poverty line, and then you have the audacity. I'm talking about the Republicans. You have the audacity, the caucasity to say that we have to get rid of entitlement programs. How can we get rid of entitlement programs such as welfare, food stamps, and housing and things like that when the American people are not making enough money to sustain themselves? And you're purposely doing that, just like they said that the restaurants would go out of business if they gave the employees a living wage. That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So the employees need a living wage. People need a living wage. People need to be able to survive. People need to be able to take care of their children. People shouldn't have to choose between going to the doctor and putting food on the table. People shouldn't have to choose between putting food on the table and I need gas in my car to get to work. That is like inherently insane. But again, for the life of me, I really don't understand why people vote Republican when they screw you all the time with their votes and with their policies. And minimum wage is just one of the ways that they have screwed the American people. And these restaurant owners, most of them are Republican donors, and they're padding their pockets and paying them to support these laws and to pass these laws so that you have to suffer, because they don't want you to increase. They want you at a place where you're codependent. They want you at a place where you're struggling, because guess what? The struggle equals control.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that and everything. I just learned something that I did not know, and I've heard about this group and get emails from them all the time. But maybe you already knew it because you're a very smart lady and everything like that. But I saw that the person that was appointed over there in California was a past executive within Emily List and all of that, that being LaFonso Butler. But I did not know that Emily's List, that the acronym, because I'd always seen Emily's List, then I thought maybe it was a person like Wendy's, but apparently it stands for Early Money is Like Yeast. So apparently their founder, Ellen Malcolm, said that it makes the dough rise. So that is where they were making the comment and talking about that early donation money. So that is actually what Emily's List is standing for, because I did not know that that was what the acronym was. So I just learned something new and passed it on to you and everybody else that is listening. Because, like I said, I was thinking it would have been something like Wendy's, a person's name or somebody in the family, but apparently it is a acronym and all in that way. So, Dr. Anthony, did you know that? Because I did not know that until I just happened to look it up about Emily's
I
List, because I
did
do get letters from them regularly, because I am in favor of female candidates getting in office, and particularly those that support abortion rights. And I know that that is one of their stances. So I am definitely one that gets things just like the group that Obama started. I get regular letters from them as well. But yeah, I did not know that. So we think we learned something new today. What do you think?
We did learn something new today. There's a lot of groups and organizations out there that, stand for the same thing and, stuff like that. But again, we can't never win the battle, because the white women are, when we take 2, 3, 4, 5 steps forward, they're chopping us down and putting us back by voting, against women rights.
Mhm.
excuse me, voting against women's rights and voting against their own, best interests and supporting the cause of, white supremacy and things like that. We'll never be able to get ahead with them, with that particular mindset and with that particular thought process and, voting in that regard, because that's just how they vote. The numbers don't lie. They can say what they want to say, but the numbers don't lie. The data is there that show that they always vote in their own best interest in, things that will benefit them as a race, but not as, a gender, as a female, and things like that or whatever. So
Yeah. I know we're winding down and everything, so we'll get ready to have that clock on the wall that you love to talk about. I was going to let you know that in the network Pod TV, there's that rotating event channel, but there's also one on world politics, which will include shows that have a political bent. So since I'm the one that programs those, do know that if you look on the line and you click on world politics, in addition to the regular live one, there's a possibility that you may see this show and other shows that are part of the All Around show on that list, because I'm the one that gets there and gets to put them on there along with some of the other founders like Nick and Kim. But I know that anything that has political discussions, which I'm a big fan of, I will definitely be adding those. So you might see those online in two places on podtv.tv, not just one. So hopefully that will boost our numbers as well. So that's wanted to share that with you, because there is a whole category. There'll actually be two pictures of two folks that a lot of folks either like or hate, but you'll see a picture of that crazy person Biden and that crazy person Trump, because I think that they're both a little bit on the crazy side, but that's the picture you will see. So if you click on that, you may just find one of these conversations, one like we're having today,
nice.
And Dr. Anthony going on, but you will definitely see those as well as some of the other political ones that go on. And Dr. Anthony, as I'm thinking about it, I know Tuesdays are usually busy for you, but they started a new show about 3 or 4 weeks ago called World Politics, where people argue about politics, some good, some not. I know you won't hold your tongue, but I will send you the invitation. And if you ever want to jump
Thank you. I would definitely join on so I can increase my viewership. We were at number 5, so we were still in the top 10. So let's go ahead and, click, like, share, and put that out there, podtv.tv, although this is considered a podcast, but it's actually digital internet TV. So we're a little bit different from a regular podcast. We are broadcasted in, many different countries and many different languages. And so I was and still is heading to that number 1 spot. So hopefully we can get there. And with your help and your support, we can. Thank you.
No doubt about it.
So the clock on the wall says that's all. Hopefully Ida V will be with us next week. She was running late. She was in traffic. She couldn't join us this week. So we will have some more interesting topics for you guys on next week. And I will see you then. Deuces, my loves.
Take it easy.
Bye.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.